Hi, I'm Maureen. Nice to meet you. Everyone's born into a family, and then you can create your own spirit family. Hi, and welcome to Spirit Family. I'm Maureen St. Germain, and I'm here with Arielle Ford and my good friend Valerie Sheppard. And we are going to be talking with Arielle about her latest book, Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate. And we're also going to be talking about spirit family and spiritual things, because spirit family is all about telling your story about your spirit family and learning from us, from our experiences, so that our personal experiences become your wisdom keepers. So welcome. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for having us. You know, one of the things that struck me when I read Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate is that I was single for 15 years after a long-term marriage, and I thought, I've read every one of those books, and I love how you wove the storyline to include those resources so people could have them if they wanted, but in addition, you put your own story. I felt like I know you. You know, it's really very special.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm quite good at outing myself.
Yeah, well, you know, it's very endearing to explore, you know, where you get your spiritual experiences and how you gain the wisdom. You know,
it's really awesome, and the outing yourself didn't feel like that to me. It felt like it brings an authenticity and a quality that says, you know, I'm not afraid for you to know me at a deeper level. And
well, how could you trust me as a writer if you didn't know my backstory and what my motivation was to share this information?
Right.
So I don't want to be talking down to anybody. I don't want to be saying, okay, you should do this. What I like to do is share, okay, here's where I was screwing up royally, and this is where I needed help, and this is what I found, and I tried it, and it worked for me, and then I tried it on my friends, and it worked for them. So if you're having a similar kind of problem, you should try it too.
It is.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love the statement that you made, that you had lots of experience in one category and zero experience in relationship. I thought that was very compelling, because we all would like to think we know better than what we do know. Yeah, so that was cool. I have 4 sons, and when I finished the book, I thought, I'm going to buy one for each and every one of them and their wives, because this book is so precious and so full of wisdom.
Oh, thank you.
I thought the same thing about my brother. I just spent Christmas with my brother and sister-in-law in Virginia, and I could see how, you know, there's nothing that I can see that's wrong with their relationship, so to speak, but, you know, I'm an outsider. But I could certainly see how there are just so many ways that a nugget here, a nugget there can really support them to have a deeper, stronger love. They're like at 5 years into their relationship.
Well, the problem with our world is that we go to school and they're very busy teaching us history and what date a particular ship landed at a particular rock, none of which is useful in real life.
Right.
You know, no one tells us how to love, how to be loving, how to communicate clearly, how to get our needs met, what a real relationship looks like. And yet we're thrown into this world, and then we act as if something's wrong when things don't go right. When the truth is, it's all very normal.
My own husband and I had our astrology done before we got married, and one of the things that our astrologer said was, you're very fortunate because you're both very evenly paired, and you're both very autonomous. That's the good news. It's also the bad news. Because, you know, there's times when he knows he's absolutely right, and I know I'm absolutely right. And it's a very interesting experience to have that, you know, that play. I'm sure you encounter that yourself.
Well, that's why my favorite quote is, it's a both and world. It's both the way you say it is and the way I say it is. So you can both be right without anybody being wrong.
Yeah.
Because when I make my partner wrong, then we both lose.
Right. That's true.
You know, and well, who knows right from wrong? You know, there really is no one truth. there's my truth, there's your truth, there's your truth. It's the lens that we look through. But the problem with most relationships is that we're so busy judging each other. You know, there was a study done at the University of Washington where they looked at couples who deliberately wore rose-colored glasses, who wanted to put the rose-colored glasses on every day. And what they discovered is that these couples have longer, happier, more satisfying relationships. And the reason for it is because they're always looking for what's right instead of looking for what's wrong.
Yeah, like the poppy seed story.
Right.
There's a story in the book about a couple, you know who they are, where the husband has had a love affair with poppy seed bagels. And he takes the poppy seed bagel into his home office every morning and leaves a trail, like Hansel and Gretel.
Little poppy seeds
yeah.
here, there. Yep.
And what was your friend's name?
Her name's Diane. It's Jerry and Diane. And Diane, every single day for 30 years, has been sweeping up, you know, like taking a paper towel, wetting it, cleaning up the poppy seeds every single morning. And it hasn't been a problem most days because she's much younger than her husband. He's actually now 91. But one morning, she had this thought. I wonder what it would take to never have to clean up these poppy seeds again, which was followed by the thought,
Oh my God.
that would mean Jerry's no longer with me. So from that day on, every time she cleaned up the poppy seeds, her heart would just fill with love because these seeds now meant that she had another day to spend with Jerry. So he never changed. It looked like the problem was over there. She had a shift in perception.
Yeah.
She went from what I called annoyed to enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
and changed her story, reframed it
Mm-hmm.
about what it meant.
That's very cool. When my husband and I have two homes because I'm an East Coast girl and he's a West Coast guy. And we followed guidance and we kept landing in the same cities. The whole courtship was very, very auspicious. And but I love to cook and he loves my cooking. And one day he came in and he could say, yeah, you can tell Maureen's back in town. Look at this floor. And then I looked at him and he said, I'm really glad I have to clean the floor.
No, but I think there's a dynamic, and I think you talk about it in the book very beautifully. There's the situation, right? We can all see the situation, and then there's your response to it or your reaction to it. And it's the reaction to the situation that really sets up either the problem or the lack thereof. The actual coming together or falling apart.
Yeah. And we're all very busy being reactive all the time. You know, I tell people if you're upset with your spouse, don't go confront them. Don't do your knee-jerk reaction. Don't just go being angry and nasty, bitching, moaning, complaining, because you know it doesn't work. It's never worked. You know, go and get yourself into a place of neutral, whether you need to meditate or pray or take a bath or go for a walk or do a heart lock-in or do EFT tapping. Do something to get to neutrality. And then, especially if you're dealing with a man, you don't want to say, honey, we have to talk. That's like the doctor saying to you, you've got cancer. What you want to do is say, hey, you know what, sweetie, I've got a little problem and I really need your help with it. Could I have 10 minutes sometime today? And then when it's time for your 10 minutes, start by saying, you know, I don't know that I've told you how great you're looking lately, but all that working out you're doing, it really shows. Your butt is awesome. And, you know, by the way, I saw you helping little Johnny with his math homework yesterday, and I've never been prouder to see what a great dad you've turned into. And I know you've been working so hard. Thank you so much for doing such a good job of taking care of us. And here's what my problem is. Like, I know that you would never, ever intentionally hurt my feelings, embarrass me, or humiliate me. But last night when we were at the party with Joan and Jim and you said ABC, I really felt embarrassed by it. And I know that you didn't do it on purpose. And then shut up and don't say another word. And now you've created a space for him to apologize and for him to get what happened and tell you it's never going to happen again, as opposed to, you stupid idiot, I can't believe that last night you told them ABC. You know, so it's about learning how to communicate from a place of deep heart and care and vulnerability and taking responsibility for your feelings and then cleaning it up.
Do you think that most people are able to, I mean, you read the words, you see the successes, but do you think most people are able to go all the way to their vulnerability? Or what gets in the way of them?
Just fear of being exposed. And that's why in Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate, I literally give you the scripts on how to have these conversations. Because they're not hard to have if you know what to say and how to say it.
You also tell us the goal.
Yeah.
So you create not only the script, but why you're saying it, the way you're saying it, and why it works, and what you can expect as a response. I think that's...
Well, you want to be heard. And men and women's brains are wired totally differently.
Yeah.
Like we can think and do multiple things at once. They cannot. They can do one thing at a time. So if you're going to talk to a man, you ask him one question and shut up. And then give him all the time he needs to respond to your one question.
Yeah, men don't like to be talked over.
No.
It's like a sign that you're not.
No, you ask them 2 or 3 questions at once, they don't answer any of them. They're now confused.
Right. And then if you interrupt them while they're trying to answer the one that you've already asked, that really shows them that you don't really respect them.
Exactly, which is such an important point.
So when you say talked over, you're saying...
don't interrupt.
You're interrupting. That's another way to put interrupting. Okay, I've never heard that phrase. I was confused. Okay.
Yeah.
Or I'm talking the same time you're talking.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I really gotta get it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Very cool. So, who's your spirit family? Who do you go to? I know we came in and you told us you sleep with your guru.
I sleep with my guru. Brian is my guru. Absolutely. He is a love chakra on legs. And so I aspire to be more like him.
Nice. And who else?
I like Amma, the hugging saint.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan of hers forever, and she actually performed our first wedding. We had 3 weddings.
I
When we
saw that
decided
in the
to
book.
get married.
Yeah.
So she performed our wedding. So I don't
You had 3 weddings. Okay, one with Amma.
Amma, and then we had to have a legal wedding. And Kenny Loggins, the rock star, is a friend of ours. So Kenny got ordained, and he was our officiant and our wedding singer.
What a great
So
story.
I had another friend who is both a civil rights attorney and the high priestess of Manhattan. So she did a pagan hand fasting on top of a mountain for us.
Oh, wow.
So we had 3 weddings.
That's
nice.
very cool. And were you at that event? When you said a pagan hand fasting?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Tied together.
So the pagans have a ritual where they take the couple and they take brightly colored ribbons and they bind your wrists together while your friends dance and sing and circle around you. And that's a wedding ceremony.
I'm thinking fasting food.
Oh no, hand fasting. Yeah.
Like fascinating.
I do not fast.
Yeah.
I do not skip meals. I don't even skip snacks.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was worried about. Yeah, food's pretty important.
Yeah.
Well, so for your spirit family, the people, and what about like close people, like people that you would call up and say, I got to talk to you about this?
Oh yeah, I have a whole tribe of people. I collect people, so I literally know thousands of people. And then I've got an inner circle of close friends,
So you married your dreamboat and
Yes.
turned your mate into your soulmate.
Well, he was already my soulmate. I mean, the title comes because so many people think that if you marry your soulmate, they're going to naturally know how to make you happy every moment of the day, and that your relationships will never have ups and downs or bumps in the world. And nothing could be further from the truth. Your soulmate is there to bring you the deepest level of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, healing is a painful process. Harville Hendricks, who Oprah calls the marriage whisperer, believes that we have a built-in mate selector. And this mate selector chooses the person that's going to bring up all our childhood wounds so they can be healed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's absolutely normal to marry your soulmate and then have lots of days and times when you hate them.
I'm not the marrying kind.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the growth, I don't think people want to admit this, I certainly don't, but the biggest growth in my life has been those kind of down times,
Oh, sure.
where you have to really evaluate how did this happen? What was my part in it? Where did I go wrong, and how am I going to do it differently in the future?
And that's normal. But we're all living like something's wrong.
right.
Catastrophe strikes, something's wrong. You know, we lose a job, we lose a business, we lose a loved one, we get a serious illness, and we're living like it shouldn't be and something's wrong. And then years later, you look back and you say, thank God for that incredibly difficult time,
Yep.
because something magnificent gets birthed out of the pain and the fire and the suffering.
And I think the other thing that we do is we want it to be over fast. Like, we want that to be like a little way station, a little detour, and I'm just going to jet out there and get it over as fast as I can and get back on track.
Yeah.
And actually, those little way stations, that's your life.
Yeah.
Like,
And
these
those are
little
the
things,
ratchets up.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
they're a part of the experience of what you came here to do and to learn.
Exactly. So
It's an
true.
opportunity, all opportunity. Well, what would be your advice for someone who's watching us and has been married a long time and it's not so sure that they're going to be able to, they want to stay married, they want to stay
Yeah.
with that person, but they don't think that's going to work.
Well, I would tell them to return your mate to your soulmate.
Yeah,
but
I
here's,
would too.
But here's why. Because A, you have to remember that there was a time when you thought they were your soulmate and you did feel the love. And then you have to really put on your big girl panties and your big boy shorts and understand that love is more than just a feeling. You know, it is a feeling, but those feelings go away. Love is a behavior, it's a decision, it's a choice, it's a commitment. And if you're just looking to your feelings to say whether or not you love somebody, you're looking in the wrong place. Now, what happens when we fall in love, when we're in this state that I like to call the socially acceptable form of insanity, we are literally crazy in love because our brain is flooded with dopamine and oxytocin and vasopressin and adrenaline and all these feel-good things. But that only lasts 6 to 18 months. It's nature's trick.
What do you do?
And then it goes away, and then the real person in the real life shows up. And that's what we don't know how to deal with. So I would say chances are the love is still there. It's covered up with all the gunk of real life and the disappointments and the angers and the frustrations and the unspoken stuff that hasn't been done. But if you're willing to commit 6 months to taking simple little baby steps to rediscover and reignite the passion, for most people it can happen. Now, I do believe that some soulmate relationships come with an expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe
Me too.
you were married for 25 years and you had children together and you had a life, and that was the agreement, the sacred contract
Right.
that you had,
Right.
and now it's over. And it doesn't mean they weren't your soulmate. It doesn't mean they're still not your soulmate.
Right.
It's just time to move on.
Right.
And you don't have to leave it heartbroken and demoralized and
Right.
angry at them and believing you wasted half of your life with this person. It's
No.
just reason, season, lifetime. Some
Right.
things are for a reason, some
Right.
are for a season. Not everything is for a lifetime. But we are taught that. It's
Well,
the
that's the
fairy
myth.
tale myth that
The happily ever after.
exactly. It's not
And
that
so
way.
this book is about happily even after.
Well, and one of the things that you might go through, a person might go through when they're in a breakup is all the regret and loss. But it doesn't mean they won't get to this place that Valerie's talking about, you know, that you could come back around and say, look, you know, it was a good cycle, but we're done.
Or you could reinvent it.
Right.
You could make a conscious choice. You know what? You know, I'm still a good woman. You're still a good man. You know, let's look and see, do we want to rebuild together and create a new vision for the future? Like, okay, the kids are gone. We're about to retire. Do we want the same thing in the last third of our lives?
Right. Right.
And choose it or not.
Right.
You know?
You know, it is interesting. As someone who was married for 25 years, both my husband and I wanted to continue, but we kept sabotaging.
Mhm.
And I would say that's one of your cues. You know, if you
Right.
keep trying and you keep failing, not because you don't want it, but because it's done, it's the end of that cycle, you can read those signs and say, okay, we're done. I remember one of my sons said to me, well, Mommy, if you and Daddy still love each other, why is this happening? And I said to him, well, you know, someday I hope to explain it to you. And one day we were driving in the car, and I said to him, okay, so bump my shoulder, and no matter what I do what I tell you, and we'll do it again. And so, he hit my shoulder and I said, oh, that really hurt. Okay, do it again. Oh, that really hurt. And the third time he looked at me and said, Mom, this is about you and Daddy, isn't it? And I said, exactly. We don't mean to, but we keep hurting each other. And we're at that place where we just can't continue.
Yeah.
But,
when it's more painful to stay, then, when staying is just so painful you can't take it anymore, then you leave.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anybody's bad or wrong.
Yeah. The thing that I will share with you, our audience, is having been married for a long time and then been single for a long time and now being happily mated to my soulmate, I think that this book is the best book I have ever read on the subject. And I was so impressed that I said I would buy all of my 4 sons, for them and their beloveds, this book, so they would have it as a tool.
Well, thank you. My publisher's going to love you.
Well, and I've even marked up, actually this is your copy. This is very good. I'm going to quote here. Through various spiritual experiences, I've come to realize our lives unfold according to both the plan we made before our lives began and the consequences stemming from our ability to exercise free will in every moment. Sometimes we have spiritual friends that we think are going to be there for the long haul, and sometimes they're not. What do you do with the idea that you thought it was going to make it and it didn't? I'm sure there's plenty of people still trying to sort out their regret and
well,
make
the
some
thing
sense out
is,
of it.
we have romantic soulmates that we marry and become like partners, but our friends and our family can also be soulmates, as can our cats and our dogs.
Hallelujah. My
You
dog
know?
is mine.
Yeah, I had a cat. I've had a couple of cats that were soulmates. Not all cats are enlightened beings, but I've had a few that are. In fact, Eckhart Tolle has this great line. He says, I've met many enlightened masters in my lifetime. All of them cats.
Oh,
Oh, that's
wow.
hilarious.
I heard that.
Well, I had one cat where an ascended master actually jumped into the cat and showed up, and I just, oh my God, and I thought, this is being done for my benefit. And I was like, how could I even expect him to stay in that cat? And the cat's great, but that was a pretty amazing experience. So tell us, in all the situations that you find yourself in with Brian, what is the one thing you do when you're over the top?
Over the top what?
Feeling like you're not being appreciated or
Well, he's generally always appreciative, but when he's doing something that I perceive as like, I don't like this and I want to change it, I go and take care of myself first, and just look and see, okay, well, especially if I'm very reactive, then I know that he's just hitting some old wound that probably doesn't have as much to do with him as it has to do with me.
And how do you find your old wounds?
Well, if I can't figure it out on my own, I have a couple of friends that are spiritual counselors that I call, and we start by praying together first and praying for a return to sanity. And then we look and see what earlier similar situation does this feel like? What is this triggering? And quite often, by the time I'm off the phone with one friend in particular, I don't even have to discuss it with him. It was just something that came up for me to heal and release. Or we do sit down and talk, but we talk from a really loving place because we never forget that we're on the same team.
Right. You're always on the same team. That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's when relationships get very difficult, is they start out, we're both on the same page, on the same team, we're on the same everything. And then over time, people start to decide, well, wait a minute, you're no longer my teammate, you're my adversary.
Well, and here's why. So Dr. John Gottman, who's one of the world's leading marriage researchers, he's at the University of Washington, he discovered that every single couple, not just some, all couples have a minimum of 9 irreconcilable differences, things on which you are never, ever, ever, ever going to agree. And that is normal. So, like in most couples, you have a spender and a saver. Right? You got somebody who's quick to anger, somebody who shuts down and doesn't want to communicate. Somebody wants it hot, somebody wants it cold.
Somebody wants to hold hands, somebody doesn't.
Right.
That's why there's a sleep number bed.
Exactly. That's so brilliant. So, what we need to learn to do is A, love and respect each other's point of view, learn to agree to disagree, not try to change each other, but come up with creative solutions. So I'll give you an example of that. And this is from Harville Hendrix' own life. When he was teaching me this, he said, you have to do creative solutions. I was like, what are you talking about?
Who has time for that?
Right. I said, give me an example. He said, yeah, I've got one. He said, my idea of the perfect day is to get out of bed, get behind the wheel of a vehicle, and drive for 8 or 9 hours. That's his perfect day. Now, his wife, Helen, her perfect day is to sit in the living room and do needlepoint and knit. And I said to him, there's no solution to that.
Yeah, how do those two meet?
Right. What is the creative solution? And he's like, we bought an RV.
Oh, so
I'm always driving. She's always home.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's very funny.
That is creative.
Yes.
That's very creative.
Yes, and there was no compromise.
Together. Yeah, nobody's giving up anything.
Nobody loses.
That word is a troublesome word, I think, in every relationship.
Well, because it's a lose-lose.
Yeah, everybody's giving up something that they think they hold dear.
Which means that you have to be willing to find the solutions. And if there's no solution, then are you willing to just live with what is? Because people do stuff like, I remember asking Brian once to change something that just annoyed me, and he just looked at me and said, that's never going to change. And he wasn't being mean or arrogant. It was just like, no, that's never going to change. Mm-hmm. And I was like
squeezing the toothpaste in the middle.
Yeah. And you know what? So my story about it needed to change, and I needed to just accept, just like he has to accept, I'm a messy slob. I'm very comfortable with clutter. He's not as much. He's learned to clean up after me.
Yeah. Yeah, we know that story in my house too.
Yeah.
That's back to the whole response thing. It's the serenity prayer. It's like, if I can't change this, then I get to change my reaction to it. Why am I? And then potentially taking a look inside to see, why does this bother me so much? Like, what is going on with me that is something I want to have an argument about
Yeah, and there's this great line. If they're doing something that you can't find the news story for and you can't fix it, just ask yourself this one question. Mm-hmm. Whatever he's doing, is it a reason not to love him?
Mm. And the answer in my book is never no.
Never, right?
Never no.
Unless they're, doing something that's abusive, or they have an addiction or super bad behavior, they're stealing money or whatever.
Right. You
pretty much whatever their annoying habit they have, however gross, is not a reason not to love them.
That's right.
And it's usually the gross stuff that's like, God, I can't believe you do that. Can't you do that somewhere else?
Yeah, right.
We talk about this in the book, but I found it very fascinating. So I love this thing. I've been writing this in my friends who get married. I've been writing this in their engagement party and card. 1 + 1 = 3. Oh. That you have to come together as whole, individuated beings, and then you create this new thing as you swirl together and connect your lives together. And you talk about that in the book.
Well, actually, Brian calls it soulmate math. So he says that 1 + 1 = 11, and your love blesses the world. Mm-hmm. And for me, 1 + 1 = 3 when you invite God into the relationship.
Yeah, that's cool.
But all of that soulmate math is good.
Yeah. I think it's important for people to want to be whole in and of themselves. That what I love about this, everything that you're talking about, is there's no more of this you complete me stuff and running around trying to find the piece of you that's missing. It's not, to me, it's not real. It's not how you find authentic partnership. You have to be a whole person.
And you do not have to be perfect to have that level of love. In fact, if you were, nobody would like you.
They'd see all their imperfection looking at your perfection.
Right, exactly.
Well, and then, of course, it takes us back to all those things about the triggers in relationship that set us off, that are also wounds waiting to be healed, woken up, and cleared out. Yeah. It's an awesome experience to be in a relationship. And I tell people all the time, whether you're in a relationship with another friend, like you were talking about earlier, Valerie, or with your soulmate, whether it's your beloved or whether it's your best friend, the interesting things that happen between you force you to face your own demons, to face your own.
Well, there's nobody else out there. They're just us and everybody who's reflecting us back to us. So, it's like my sister used to teach, when you're pointing a finger at somebody, you always have 3 fingers pointing right back at you.
Right.
That's a great line.
But I think this whole thing of, I say this to my students, we're never taught how to be in relationship with ourselves. And that's the primary relationship. That's the relationship we take everywhere we go. As I think Confucius said, wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
And that's like, if you're not in a place of self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-love, you're bringing a kind of wound that you're still embracing and still breathing life into in any relationship.
Yeah, but that's also the value of being with your soulmate, because when you can see how much they love you reflected in their eyes and their behavior, then you can be gentler with yourself and more accepting of yourself.
So what I'd like to close with is this great story that you have in the book. And I'd like to remind all of you who are watching that this book truly is a remarkable tool to learn more about yourself, more about your relationship, and to find impressively powerful ways to heal. So the story is about the woman who loved to go shopping. That was her idea of a great day.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't go shopping very often, but when she went, she wanted her husband to go with her.
Yes.
And he would sit patiently in the store while she did her shopping, but it wasn't so patiently. And he would, be twiddling his thumbs or probably playing with his phone or finding something to occupy himself. And when he used up all of his toys or whatever, now he's really bored. And then he decided to invite God.
Yes. He hated shopping with everything in his body, and he prayed for a solution, because he just didn't think he could sit there one more second. And God spoke to him, and God said to him, write your wife a love letter. So he got out a piece of paper and a pen, and he wrote her a love letter. And when she was done shopping, he said, sit down, I have something to read you. And he read her the love letter. And of course she melted, and they left the store arm in arm and very happy. But 2 weeks later, she went back to the same store with her mother. And she saw this young man with his wife going into the dress department where she had been with her husband a couple weeks before. And she could tell by the look on his face that it was torture for him. And she walked over to him and she said, it's horrible for you, isn't it? And he said, oh, you have no idea. And she said, actually, I do. And so she shared the story about how her husband wrote the love letter. And as she turned to leave the young man, she heard him say, honey, you got a pen?
Oh.
So
This
precious.
is Maureen St. Germain, Valerie Sheppard, and we have been interviewing Arielle Ford, author of her latest book, Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate. Thanks for being with us.